This is the Chapter 5 video showing you how to use a while loop. There are variations of the while loop, and this one is going to be the one that tests the condition at the top and is the most flexible of all the while loops. I've already started the program by including my header files that I'll need for this particular program and starting the function main. What we're going to do in this program is let the user enter an unknown number of items and prices from the keyboard and then output a real simple invoice that just totals the items and also shows the number of items purchased. So I'm going to start by declaring my variables. The first one will be the string variable for my items. So string item. Next I have some real numbers that will be declared as double. One is price, that's price per item, and the other is an accumulator that will be a running total of all the prices for our items that we input. I'm going to initialize that to 0 as a start value to be sure that that memory location is empty, and then I'm going to declare an integer variable called count that I'm going to use as a counter in the loop to count the number of items that we're processing. So I've got my variables declared. Now I'm going to actually prompt the user to input the item and price separated by a space. So I want to be sure that the users know exactly what to do. And I also want to let them know how to exit from the loop. So I'm going to tell them that they need to type in an end and a 0 to exit. Then I want to read that information from the keyboard using the extraction operator here to designate my two variables. Now I'm ready to start my loop. The word while is a reserved word, and then in parentheses is the Boolean expression that will control the looping process. So I'm going to use item not equal to the word end, which I prompted my user to use to stop the loop, and then close the loop condition. The while loop is a block of code, so it has to start with a curly brace. And inside this loop, what I want to do is to actually echo print what I've input. So I'm going to put item and then separate that with the escape tab sequence to get some spacing there. And then I'm going to have price print. And one of the other things I should have done up at the top was to set my precision and everything I want about my numbers that are outputting. So I'm going to go back and do that cout statement here and make sure that it's fixed, that the decimal will show, and that the precision is 2 decimal places. That way, no matter how the user enters it, I'll get that output in that, the numeric output in that format. So I'm printing out there in the loop my item and my price. Then I want to add to my running total the price. And I could have written that line total equals total plus price, but I'm using the shortcut way to do that, and I'll do the same for count. I'm going to just do count plus plus, which increments count by 1. So every time I come through the loop, it's going to add 1 to the variable count. Then I'm going to add at the bottom of the loop these two statements that are right above the loop. So I'm going to copy and paste these in. Now, the reason for doing that is this is known as the priming or primary read right here. It actually puts values in my variables to start the looping process. If I enter end 0 as the first item, the loop will never execute at all. As long as I input something else, I will be inside of the loop. Then once in the loop, I want to print the data, total the price, and count. And then at the bottom of the loop, I have the secondary read, which are the same two statements, which is prompting the user for the next set of data. So that's all that's included in the loop itself. In this way, I could process once, no times at all, or an infinite number of times. That's what makes this loop so flexible. The condition is at the top, and it's possible that the loop may never execute. When the loop is finished, I have some housekeeping to do, and that is that I want to actually output what I have calculated. So I'm going to do a line feed here for some spacing, and I want the word total to print, as well as some spacing here. So I'm going to put a tab there, and then I want to input count, or actually output count, then another label for items, and then a $sign to print right next to my numeric value total, and then the contents of the variable total, and then a couple of line feeds at the end. Then I need my return 0 to end function main, and close the block of code for main. So I'm ready to build my solution, and I'm looking for build succeeded again on the lower left. And I see it down here, build succeeded, so I can come back and run the program with start without debugging. And the first thing it's going to do, of course, is to prompt me to enter an item and a price separated by a 0. So my first item is going to be a hammer with a price of $9.95, and I told the user to put a single space in between. The next item is going to be a saw at a price of $20.15. And I don't like the way that spacing looks, so I'm going to end the loop with end 0, and it gives me my output, and that really isn't very clear either. I need some spacing between my total, which is my total count of items, and I need some spacing on my prompt line. So I'm going to come back in here and do a \n to add a line there. Then I've got a tab here, but I need some spacing here. So, and of course I can shortcut the build and execute process with Control F5. So I'm holding down Control and pressing F5. It tells me it's out of date. So I'm going to rebuild, and as soon as I get a successful build, I will run it again. And let's try hammer for $9.95, saw for $20.15, and it does read a little easier on the screen even though this window is small, and a shovel for $35.4. Then I'm going to exit the loop with end and 0, and their total 3 items at $65.50. That's my grand total. So now you've seen how to do a while loop, and this again is the most flexible because the condition is at the top.